time. I wanted just to put to the panel the point that Greta is just one of a number of people, and we have them behind this table today, that are giving voice to a new generation, and we call this panel Inherit the Earth, but these are the people that are going to have to pick up the world and to live in the world over the next 50, 60 years with all the problems that adults have largely created for them. But the point I wanted to ask the panel was, with Greta, with the panelists here who are doing all their work, with the climate strikes that we're seeing with school children getting involved around the world, with the fact that media are beginning to speak more to young people, are young people really beginning to influence the debate now? Do you feel that you're beginning to change the way that adults and the decision makers in the world are beginning to think about these problems? And will it make a fundamental difference, do we think, about really beginning to address them? I'll start with you.
Thank you. I think recently there's been a lot of opposition to the message that lots of young people are saying, and I think that's primarily because Greta and the rest of the youth movement are challenging the pre-existing systems which provide comfort for lots of people, so they feel quite uncomfortable that that's happening. And I think that opposition and resistance, rather than being evidence of failure, I think it's evidence of victory, because it's showing that if people are uncomfortable, then something's changing and the systems are changing. So I think that's hope, and really I can't measure the success that we've had yet, because when we're older, in about 50 years, that's when we look back and think, I can't believe how much emissions we were emitting, and I can't believe how much forest was being deforested back then. So we can only really measure success when we look back, but from the resistance we're seeing at the moment, I think definitely there's a lot of progression.
Can I ask you, because you're in quite a unique position, a bit like Greta in some ways, you're going into media studios, Channel 4, Sky News, doing the sort of interviews I do. How do you feel that you're treated? Are the journalists who are interviewing you because they just think you're just unique because you're a young person, or are they treating you in the sense that your opinions matter as much as any other adult they might be interviewing? How do you feel about that?
I think sometimes it's a bit tokenistic, almost having a young person, and people like to hear the message and they often applaud and say it's inspirational, but then 5 minutes later it's all forgotten. But young people have the biggest stake in the future, and it's also the largest demographic in the world, so I think it's really important that we're all engaged in the debate, and on panels like this, and in businesses and organisations that our voices are listened to and acted upon as well.
Can I come to you, one troublemaker? You came to my attention because when we had the Walk for Wildlife, and Chris brought you up on stage and he talked about the issues you had with the Sharks Trust and some of the problems with Bear Grylls and the campaign that you got involved with. And what struck me was that you were quite happy just to talk about the fact that you were very, very right in what you were doing, and you weren't happy necessarily the way you'd been treated. We don't often hear that from such a young person, but can you just tell me, you do say what you think and how important that is to you. It doesn't matter how old you are, you will say if you think someone is wrong, is that right?
Well, yeah, I have always thought that what's the point in lying? Let's just tell them exactly what I think of them, and that's what I do. If someone's doing well, I'll say that, but if someone's messing up, I'll give them hell. So yeah, that sort of answers it. I've always wanted to give them exactly the truth, really, of how I feel.
Finlay,
Good for you, that's what I'm
Finlay, just tell us how you felt when you got sacked.
Yeah, go on. Because did the Sharks Trust say to you, you'd upset Bear Grylls, and on that basis they thought they were going to say that we won't use you anymore as a young ambassador, is that right?
Well, that happened quite a long time ago.
Yes.
But I remember at the time I was pretty upset about it, because I don't know how long I was part of that, maybe a year, and I'd done other campaigns and started a Facebook message exactly the same way as Scotland's young shark ambassador, I believe. And then just because I had a go at a celebrity, apparently they have to sack me.
Not very clever thing to do. Well done for speaking up. I think that's really important. Let's have a round of applause. Come to you, Alex, because I've written a book, and I know how hard it is to write a book, and I know how hard it is to sort of go on the road and publish, get it marketed effectively, signing it and sitting there and thinking, is everyone going to come and actually buy it? You must have felt that yesterday. Yeah. But they did come. They came in large numbers because it's a great book. How are people treating you? Do you feel they're treating you differently now that you've written a book? Are they treating you more as an adult, as an author? Because it's quite a big thing to do what you've done. I just wondered how you feel so far about being an author. And well done for being an author.
Thank you. I think when writing a book, well, when I first started writing a book, I didn't think it was going to happen. I wrote a couple of pages, and then I didn't really think that was going to go anywhere. And then, well, it did go somewhere, didn't it? And then, yeah, you could just keep writing pages. But as soon as it got published, nothing really changed. I mean, I was still being given the amount of respect I had before. I mean, I don't really, to be honest, I don't really care the fact that if people, the amount of respect I get, I don't really mind, because as long as I get the message that I get, that I wrote the book for, as across to younger teenagers and stuff, then I'm happy. So especially if what I'm trying to say is nothing has changed in the way of what people see me. I'm still a 16-year-old boy who wrote a book about wildlife, and I don't really mind the fact if people say, "Oh, you're so good," and I'm like, "Yeah, thank you," but I didn't write the book for fame or money. It's for the deliberate purpose to get children involved in nature.
Yes, well, congratulations. Rebecca, these are beautiful and well done. And obviously this is your heart and soul going into this. You know, you're very young, but how do you feel when people sort of look at this and smile? And this is beautiful, by the way, if anyone's got some. Can we get copies of these are available?
Yeah, I'll leave for a few at the front for people to take.
But this is just, to me, it's the colours, it just captures your imagination straight away. So just tell us a little bit about that and how that came about. Did you choose the colours and the illustrations? Did you get...
In Pat the Caterpillar,
Yes.
the book,
This one.
I made up this bats and cat bit.
Beautiful. So this was your idea, and did you choose the colours and do you have some? Yes?
I drew the bats and cats
Yes.
and on a bit of paper,
Yes.
and my mum just copied it out and put it in the book.
And you help me with the fun facts at the back, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this wonderful picture here of your little pink house. So is this in the garden?
That is, yeah.
Oh.
In the back garden.
In the back garden. That's fantastic, isn't it? Can we see? Can we see that? It's beautiful. Hold on. And are you really happy with all of this and how people react to it? Do you have friends at school that see this and how do they see it? They like it?
I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen it
No,
yet?
it's quite new, yeah.
This is all new,
Yeah.
so you'll get that reaction soon then.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah.
You are indeed. Well done. Because isn't this just beautiful? Just the imagination that's gone into this. And if you look at everything that's on, you know, your social media and all that you're putting out, it's wonderful. Let's have a round of applause for that. Can I come on to you, Josh? Because you've got experience of, you know, broadcasting, campaigning. You're now at university. How is life treating you now as a young campaigner, now university student? How do you feel? Are you talking more in university about these things? You know, what's happening on campus with some of the things that you're really passionate about?
It's a very different sort of perspective, I suppose, going from high school and sixth form into university. Obviously, I know from being at school it was very different. Like there wasn't as many people around me that were as passionate, and obviously going into university, it's sort of a very different situation. And you can definitely see it's nice. I suppose it's a lot more comfortable being surrounded by those who are sort of passionate about the same thing that you're passionate about, and getting campaigns onto campus. Like we've had up in Hull, so there's a lot of marine, focused on a lot on the marine wildlife and the marine courses, and talking a lot about like plastic pollution and sort of campaigns like that. So it's a very different situation. It's a very sort of different scenario, and it's also nice to see these young people, like they've come to university, and one of my courses this year was called Science Communication, and we did a lot of work looking at social media and like the importance of that, which was a new module for, actually I think it was last year, but this year, like due to it, people on the course were sort of realising the importance of like putting themselves out there on Twitter and on social media, and the value of their voice, and just realising that where they can get by sort of putting their voice out there and putting their message out there and writing about it. So it's sort of, yeah, it's been very interesting and sort of been really nice, different situation at university, yeah.
But you're enjoying it?
Yeah, definitely.
And have you started to think about what your future career might be? Are you still interested in maybe going into some sort of conservation wildlife research type area? Are you thinking about that now? Has things changed as you've got older? Are you still thinking along the same lines?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's sort of deciding which branch you want to go into. You want to make the biggest impact that you can. So I'm really interested and passionate about education, communication. So I'm thinking, is that the way to go, or is it sort of research and science and being that backbone to what you've got in communication? So it's difficult to decide where you want to go, and there's so much you want to stretch yourself across because you want to make an impact, you want to make something change. So, but yeah, it's sort of a difficult question. At the moment, I'm just letting it just sort of go with it and see how that happens. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. A round of applause.
Opportunity to raise a question from the audience. Does anyone have a question they want to put to our young panellists here about any issue around nature protection and wildlife? There's one here.
Do you want to just stand up so they can hear you? So they can.
Yes. I've been involved in wildlife conservation and talking about it for quite a lot of years, and for most of those years, in fact most of my life since I was a teenager, there's been this hand-wringing about how we're going to get young people engaged and how we're going to get them interested. And the last year or so, since I've met some of you and heard voices, your voices being raised, and seeing climate strikers and young people getting involved in extinction rebellion, part of me is thinking, we don't need to worry about the young people anymore. And I think actually that's right, we don't need to worry about the young people, it's our generation, your parents' generation. So you're speaking for your generation and for your future. How can we help? How can we help you? If we're not focusing so much on our anxiety about young people being engaged, how can we help you reach the older generation, the ones that are causing the problem?
Good question. Want to start with that one?
Well, I think the whole point of the youth movement is to engage the older generation. And you answered your original question, which is that young people are already engaged and now it needs to trickle upwards in most cases. And I think what adults can do is, first of all, listen, which is increasingly happening, and then act. And it depends what the demands are. But for the climate strikes, there are demands which one of them was for the government to declare a climate and ecological crisis, which they did. And obviously that's not enough. Now there needs to be action. But the government has to act, but there's also a personal level where people have to take responsibility for each of their individual actions. And I think adults can begin by, rather than looking outwards, turning the magnifying glass on their own lives and seeing how they can make changes, and then helping their children, young people in their lives, make those changes as well. Because if you're young, sometimes it's difficult to implement those changes in your own lives.
You're going to speak, for example, at the Lawn Tree events coming up in September. You've been speaking at government events, the Foreign Office Wildlife Crime Conference, I think last year you spoke at. So you're going into the media and speaking to millions of people. So you've become a powerful voice in your own right. But you know, at the beginning we were just talking about influencing. Are you influencing, you think, both young and old people equally from what you're saying? Is it the case that maybe more young people look at Bella and think, oh, that's really interesting, I should be thinking about that? Or are you making people like us, older people in this room, maybe think we've just not done enough? But how do you think we're influencing?
I don't think in this room, but at the conference you're referencing, which was the Illegal Wildlife Trade Conference, so there were lots of heads of state and prime ministers, and they all went into a room and made pledges. And now it's been about 6 or 7 months and none of the pledges have been implemented. And Michael Gove promised lots of meetings as well for the Ivory Alliance, and those weren't followed through. And it's not him, but it's just in general that our system and the government doesn't follow through on the pledges that have been made, and that's one of the most important things now, to actually make those pledges and then act upon them, because that's, from my life, from the time that I've been involved, I haven't seen any real bold action being taken.
Do you think, just to finish that point, do you think where you are at the moment that too much of this is divided along political lines? We should put political differences aside and say that we've got to do this to the environment and wildlife. It shouldn't be about one party or another. Or is that part of the problem, you think?
Yeah, because it's a human issue, it's not a political issue at all. And having the borders and divisions and the silo culture, even in conservation, it doesn't help at all. So I think we need to remove all of that and just see it as a human issue. It's going to affect all of us, and we all need to do something about it.
Thank you. Alice, can I just come on to you?
You've taken pictures, you've got blogs, you've got friends at school, of course, that you talk to about this. You're now reaching a broader audience with your book. How do you think you're influencing people, you know, your friends at your age and also the older people you're coming across?
Okay, so with my friends down in Oxford, I was actually quite surprised. So for the first climate strike, I told the school I was going to go, and they said no. So I came back home and told my mum, and she was like, so I'm going to write a polite email to the school and say that I'm not going to go in. And they came back with it saying it's going to be an unauthorised absence, and then my mum said, okay, then I'm just taking out the full day, and that worked. So I went there, and then the next day the school came along and said, you shouldn't have done that. We may give you a consequence. And yeah, so that was the first one. Next one, they said, we're going to lock all the doors. That, they shouldn't have said
So
that.
you locked the doors, you couldn't get out?
Yes, I couldn't get out. Yeah, so me being me, I came home, told my mum, and I was like, how about I put this on Twitter? So I should have really explained it on Twitter how they were going to lock the doors. So they always lock the doors in case there's security. But it went a bit wild, and it was saying that always in keeping privacy and stuff, it's in the face of human rights and stuff. And when I went down to the climate strike, I was actually surprised to see how many people had jumped the fence from our school. Even though I've been told there was like hundreds of teachers just against the fence, there were still children just jumping over the fence. So I was like, although I was very surprised because my school is just not a great school, so I'm not saying anything about it. I was quite surprised that there were so many of all ages. It was like from my year, which was year 11, to year 7s jumping the fence. I was like, this is incredible. I mean, I only thought that there were 4 or 5 people from my school. It was really good. And then when I saw photos of people still in class, I saw 2 of my friends still in class, and the whole classroom just went apart. There was only about 5 people per class. So it's really good to know that there were some people going out and risking getting detentions and being consequences, and risking their whole school and risking time after school to protest. And it's amazing to know that that children do actually care.
So you think that the climate strikes, and you've been involved in this too, but I think George probably you have to come from it. You think this is not just children wanting to be involved in something that's gaining attention because they're on the streets, there's a genuine interest in the issue. Is there a combination of the two? Are people saying, I've got to be involved because everyone's there, or are they saying, actually, I really feel I need to do something?
Well, some of the people that were there, they were genuinely holding posters,
yes,
being involved, although I do know a couple of the people who went out.
Just thought to get out for a few hours.
And because after a while, after a couple of times, they just started letting children out.
Yeah.
And I do know a few people who are in my year who just went out to go to KFC or whatever.
Yeah.
But there were genuinely a lot of children who went out with posters and decided to go just for a couple of hours and then go back into school. But the problem with our school is that if you go out, it's a C3, which is a detention.
Right.
And then when you come back in, it's either you're allowed in or it's a C3, which is no detention.
Right. Okay.
So it's great to see that there were people out there.
Yeah.
It's also annoying to see the people just taking advantage of the opportunity to get out of school and get out of lessons.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Regarding schools?
Yes.
Because it's not until recently that my daughter has got the conservation, animals and things like that is in her heart.
Yes.
So her education is in her head.
Yes.
But at school, her school is not mixed in her college, So it wasn't until we actually went to an exhibition for What Uni that we knew, like, children can have jobs like this. I've always assumed it was somebody like Chris Patton who was on the television and then came to do this.
Yes.
I didn't realise it was an education that she could do in uni, and so went to this thing at the NEC, and then she was like, I could see her, she was like, it's something jobs that she could have done,
Yes.
but it wasn't here.
Right.
It wasn't something she wanted to like follow and pursue, and then she thought, oh, I want zoology, and that's it, and she's just gone like this. But none of that has from school. There's no, I don't think there's any help in education, in schooling, about conservation and heading from Leicestershire schools anyway. So I think it ought to be brought back to the schools for them to support you, and you not have to fight to get out of the classroom. The teachers should be there to take you to these things.
Yeah.
Come back on that.
Yeah, so regarding your question, I get it that there are a lot of schools who don't really support wildlife and nature. In fact, the only times that you do get to even read about wildlife and nature is in biology, isn't it? There's no GCSE regarding the natural history, although there are plans to. There's a petition and there's plans to try and get a natural history, which would make wildlife seen more mainstream than it just being a side thing, which is geeky and
I had my bullying because she was different.
Yeah,
She didn't follow fashion, didn't wear makeup,
exactly.
Her thing. Her thing is like animals, earth, and that.
Yeah.
So she was like,
Yeah.
so she didn't follow that crowd, she followed the animal crowd.
Yeah.
I think there's that problem that's got to be sorted out so that that hasn't been ignored.
Can I ask Rebecca, because you're at a very young age, are your friends at school, your primary school at the moment, presumably, is it?
Yeah.
So what sort of age group is Rebecca in? Year 1, 2, how's that?
From reception up to 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are your friends, are they interested in what you're doing?
Do you talk to them about all of what you're doing with your caterpillars and butterflies?
Well, I tell a few of my friends, like my best friend Grace, and my own friends.
Yes. And are they interested? Do they like what you're doing?
Yeah.
They do. And do you think you'll win more at them over, get more of them? Is it mostly girls or are the boys interested too? It's a mixed school, presumably.
It is, yeah.
Are there many boys taking interest?
I
Not
think
yet.
it's mainly girls.
Mainly girls.
Yeah.
So there's a bit more work to do on the boys. But have you done any? Have you spoken in a classroom? They had a nature course.
Assemblies, she's been in, yeah.
I've been in front of the whole school in assemblies before,
Amazing.
and I've shown them that I've been in the Butterfly Conservation magazine, and I've shown them the butterfly count sheet if they want to take part.
So you've spoken to all of the children in the assembly about what you've done.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well done. Let's go around.
Yeah.
What about you? You talk to your school. Did you talk to them about what's going on in the shark trust? Are you a bit of a hero now because you've fallen out with Bear Grylls?
Well, really, I mean, I talk to my school a lot.
Yeah.
Most people just roll their eyes and don't really care. So I keep trying though. And in regards to that, I mean, what happened with the Bear Grylls campaign, it went fine. But now, all I'm known is the boy who told Bear Grylls you suck. That is all I'm known as now. I would like to be known as something a bit more positive, but being the media, they didn't read the actual real letter I sent to him. They just read the you suck bit at the end.
Would you like to meet him? Have you got a chance to meet him and talk to him about your success? Would
No.
you like to do that? No.
Because I mean, maybe, I tried many times. I
We put
tried.
this on YouTube and we go back to him and say, listen, you should come with me. And maybe you should come to, should we bring him to BirdFair next year?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think we'll all have certain things to say.
Should we invite him on the Friday night panel? Why not? He'll be good on the panel. He'll be provocative, but you know, we'll see. We'll see what we can do, yeah?
Yeah,
Okay. Well
so that's what happened.
Good. Good. Thank you very much.
Georgia, university, what's going on? What about climate strike? Have you been involved in it? Anything at campus? Or just passing people by?
There hasn't been much on campus. There's been a bit sort of obviously in like Hull and York and sort of obviously other places across the UK, which has been a little bit disappointing. But there's been there's been things going on. So obviously like people getting involved through social media and online, which has really sort of brought a lot of people together and a lot of people sort of giving them, I think for a lot of young people, just giving them that buzz to giving them an opportunity, sort of similar to what Alex was saying, like the positive side, giving an opportunity to show them that they can go and speak out and they can use their voice, and just show them the importance of how they can use their voice. But I think it's definitely something that's, as I say, it's growing and growing. It'd be really good to sort of see more on, perhaps at universities. I think a lot of people have viewed it as the school strikes, and universities and students have seen it as, but definitely something hopefully in the future, and something that will definitely be, say, growing and growing.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Good. Keep it up.
And I think there's more work to be done, but there's definitely, and when I go to universities, there's a lot of energy there. Have you got a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, ask Finlay how your climate strikes are going in Scotland. Do you think they are the same popularity as here in England?
Well, at the BirdFair on Friday was my 35th climate strike. I believe I was the first person to climate strike in the United Kingdom. In regards to is it the samely covered and that sort of thing, well, I'm going to say no, because we're all the way up there, which means most people can't really be bothered to drive up and talk to me. So that's why you get more coverage in London, Edinburgh, Glasgow, York, other cities.
But I saw you on the news, but you were on BBC News then.
Yeah, I do get the odd visit, but that's very unusual to get a visit. But yeah.
So, can I ask you, Bella, because you're fortunate, you're living, I think, is it Richmond or the South East you live at the moment? So you're close to London, you're part of, you've got connections with MPs and things, and I know you've worked really hard to sort of, do you sometimes think there's an advantage being close to London, knowing Westminster MPs, and if you're up in Scotland and you're isolated more, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, there's
Do you feel it?
definitely an advantage, having the access. I think the biggest advantage is having social media, because that's where you can, especially Twitter, that's where you can directly target politicians. Not target, you can access politicians. And unfortunately the new Environment Secretary doesn't have Twitter, so I don't know how we're going to be. No, but there's definitely a benefit living in London, close to where big stuff goes on.
Yeah, it's a good point. We get that up with adult issues as well, London. We are too London-centric. So we've got, can I take that, there's one here, and I'll come to you in a minute. Do you want to stand up and just ask your mind? Thank you.
Hi. I was just wondering, we in the Wildlife Trust, especially around here, we have a lot of younger people doing wildlife watch activities, and like you say, at the end of primary school it just seems to stop. And it's not cool to like wildlife. So do you think that's changing? Do you think people in your schools are actually becoming more aware of conservation and climate change? And do you think that is actually on the move now? And do you think that will improve and get better with time, with all your actions and all the other actions that are going on? Or do you think it'll always be a constant battle in secondary schools to get people involved because the curriculum doesn't allow that? I've tried in the past, I used to run Nottinghamshire's environmental education centres in secondary schools, never came because they said it didn't fit into their timetable.
Yeah, so a lot of this comes back to the whole issue of the national curriculum, the fact that we don't have a GCSE in natural history. I know there's been a lot of work done by various people to try and move that debate forward. Can I ask you, Georgia, because you've just come through secondary school into university, did you see when you were younger there was more going on in your early stages of school, and as you got towards the latter end it was more difficult to see what was happening and then into university? Where do you see that?
Yeah, I agree. So I think as much as there is definitely change happening, and it seems to have happened all of a sudden. I think, say, like I didn't really see it much in primary school. It was more, there was little bits going on in primary school. It was more, and then into secondary school, as I say, just like the biology and talking about the hope to get more onto the curriculum. And again, like others spoke about on the panel, you stand out, and then that's how I found my sort of refuge in going on social media and finding like-minded others on Twitter and so on. But I think with a lot in the media at the moment on conservation and the climate strikes and climate change, and whether it's sort of like documentaries and whether it's more talking about the issues rather than just talking about, talking about the issues as well as like what's showing, like presenting wildlife, it's definitely making people are watching it and young people are watching it and young people are becoming more aware to it. But I wouldn't necessarily say that they weren't before, but they're seeing more of where they can stand up and where they can put their voice across, and they are definitely sort of getting more involved and waking up and wanting to get involved as well. So things are changing. I definitely think so.
I'll take this other question, so this will come back. I think gentlemen here.
Yeah, the question was about, it's kind of like a thinking thing about, you say